All right. Touring and long distance on a sport bike on a Crotch Rocket. Is it possible? Is it doable? Should you do it? Should you not do it? Well, so I just got back yesterday from a 3-day, 1,500-mile trip out to Colorado and back because I wanted to find out firsthand. So the motorcycle I took was this CBR600RR right here, and it has factory furniture on it. So the stock seat, stock grips, stock levers. I didn't have any luggage bags, saddle bags, or any rear racks. A factory-sized windshield on the front, and our bike has no sort of cruise control rider aids. I didn't use a throttle lock, a throttle rocker. We just gripped it and ripped it. Because I wanted to know, was something like this possible on a sport bike, just like you would ride it out of the dealership? And so this is my follow-up. This is my report back of my revelations and conclusions from doing something like this. So I'm gonna kind of go over what I learned, what I would do differently if I did it again, kind of the pros of taking a super sport that far, and definitely the cons. So motorcycles are extremely fun. Super sport motorcycles are extremely fun, and motorcycle trips themselves can be extremely fun. But is a motorcycle, being a super sport, fun to take on a trip? Well, let's rip into it. And my name's Micah, welcome to the channel. So we're gonna kind of cover this. I'll try and cover every base I can, from how the highway was, how my comfort level was, what I found worked good, what I found was a weak point or really wore me down, beat me up quick. So first off, let me start with the pros, what I really enjoyed about this trip being on a super sport motorcycle. Well, the first one, obviously, just the sheer speed and power of a motorcycle like this. You know, it makes getting up to speed, needing to pass that semi, you know, all of that stuff is just effortless. It's very, very easy. I think another pro to the super sport style of bike is just that they're so light and nimble. You know, once I was out in Colorado and we had some twisties and those more curvy mountain roads, it was very, very enjoyable to be on a motorcycle like this versus, say, if we were on a Honda Goldwing. Now, not that a Honda Goldwing isn't fun to ride, but when you get to those twisties, man, I was smiling ear to ear on this, I will say that. Another pro to taking a Crotch Rocket touring or for long distance rides is, well, actually, yeah, that's about it. They're nimble and they're fast, but those are the only perks. Like, literally, that's the only perks. That's really kind of the only reason that anybody really gets this style of motorcycle. So now we'll get to the long list of cons, the negatives about taking a Crotch Rocket on a significant ride, stacking significant miles in a short amount of time on this style of bike. Well, the first one, the seating position. So your legs are going to be tucked back, you're leaning forward, you do have some weight on your wrists as well. Now, while I really love being in that style of riding position, like riding around town or going on fun little rips where you rip some curves and twisties, I mean, doing wheelies or just racing, going fast. Sure, that is the position that I like to be in. It's very fun. But when you're just stuck in that position for a long amount of time and you're just going straight down the highway, well, it certainly starts to wear on you. And it wears on all different parts of your body. I mean, your legs just being tucked back like that kind of start to get fatigued. They start to cramp up. I mean, with your legs being tucked up like that, then you do have a good amount of weight on your feet, on your ankles, you know, as opposed to being on a cruiser where your legs, your feet are kind of just setting on the pegs almost. Your core starts to get a workout as well because you're kind of shifting. Sometimes you'll pinch that gas tank with your legs just to take some weight off of your wrists, and so your core, your abs, abs, your hip, I mean, it wears on them too. And then the back, of course, from you just leaning forward, I mean, indefinitely for hours on end, all day long, the back takes a beating. I did find some things to make that not so bad, but then your arms being out, you know, you've got weight on your wrists, I mean, your forearms from gripping those handlebars. Everything about the arms is gonna start to hurt. I mean, the shoulder, the triceps, the forearms, your hands, just your hands, your grip strength from gripping onto those handlebars and having weight on them for so long. And not to mention no cruise control, right? So you constantly, this whole trip, I was just an iron grip on that throttle because you have to hold it in place. And then once you're buzzing down the highway, down the interstate, you know, you have some speed behind you, so you have that throttle twisted a little bit more. You have wind hitting you, so you're gripping tighter on that throttle, on those handlebars, than you would be on, say, well, some slower speed roads, right? Whereas slower speeds on a sport bike, you're really more just supporting yourself with your hands. You don't have to quite have the iron grip on your motorcycle. Well, and then your head, your neck, because these bikes, they don't have much for wind protection, right? So our little windscreen here, I mean, when I have a hold of the handlebars, you know, that windscreen, the top of it is about right there. So that is not enough to keep the wind off of my head, off the top of my torso. Sure, I could tuck down and get my helmet behind that wind, but then I'm tucked down looking forward, and that's gonna beat me up a lot quicker. You know, I won't be able to do that as long as just riding straight up. And also another thing is just the limited amount of room on these motorcycles for cargo, for luggage, right? And I didn't put any saddlebags, any tank bags, anything like that on our bike. I wanted it to be just like it would roll out of the dealership. So I did put on 2 little hooks under the tail just that I could hook a bungee cord into, but I just used those hooks and then the rear passenger pegs as a spot to put bungee cords so I could strap on a little bag over our passenger seat. Now, of course, that is a very small little passenger seat, and so I needed more gear, more cargo than I could fit in the little bag because I didn't want to have some massive bag on that little seat. So with our bag size being limited on the rear end, it forced me to wear a backpack as well that was loaded up with a fair amount of gear. So now the cargo situation is going to be different for everybody. I mean, depending on what you're going, depending on what you're taking with you, you know, you may or may not be loaded down with gear on your person, but I was because of the limited cargo space of the bike. And so that was another factor that beat me up as well. So you've got a lot of things working against you if you want to take a motorcycle like this for those trips, for those road trips, doing the long distance. I mean, we're talking around 500 miles a day or more. So my first day, I was just going from Lincoln, Nebraska out to Colorado Springs. So just all highway, I'm on the flats, I'm in the middle of nowhere. So we had a short jaunt on the interstate, and then I jumped on some back roads, just some 2 lanes, just because there was less traffic, a little bit lower speed limits. It was just easier riding. Less traffic, less problems, less things to worry about. So we did about 535 miles of that the first day. The second day we were out there was just cruising through the mountains, and so we did 400 miles the second day, but we spent about the same amount of time on the motorcycle because back in the mountains, you know, we had speed limits between about 35 miles per hour and 65. So while we still did a full day, we had the same amount of time in the saddle pretty much, just different riding overall. Lots more curves. I mean, curves every block or so. Lower speeds, low traffic levels, more to see that your mind can kind of keep busy with things as opposed to just mindlessly riding. And then the final day, the third day, the last day was coming home. So doing that exact same 500 plus mile ride that's just, you know, not much to see, higher speeds, you're just locking in, putting on the miles. Well, you know what, let's get a hard seltzer going for as we talk about this. Cheers, friends. So now there was something that was very different in our days of riding, even though we put, about the same saddle time in every single day. How I felt afterwards at the end of the day from being on the highway versus being in the mountains and that slower speed, more twisty cruising, very, very different feelings there. I felt completely exhausted, just beat up. I felt like people had beat me up just after I had ran a marathon from, at the end of the days of my highway cruising. But at the end of the day from my mountain adventure, I felt like the king of the world. There was wind beneath my wings. I was just ready to do anything, even after that full day of riding. Now, why was that? Well, so a couple different reasons. The main one being just the lower speeds that I was at in the mountains. And a couple things come along with those lower speeds. Less wind, right? So that's not beating you up as much. And also, less vibrations. So let me just talk about the vibrations from a motorcycle like this, specifically talking about inline 4-cylinder crotch rockets, the screamers. I have always said that an inline 4-cylinder motorcycle is exceptionally smooth, right? I mean, just listen to them. The sound of an inline 4-cylinder bike is just wah. It's a perfect tone. It's a motorcycle that almost sings a song to you. Whereas think of your Harleys, think of your V-twin motorcycles, which you commonly see in those cruiser and touring bike packages. Your V-twin, I mean, just sitting at the stoplight on the kickstand, not even revving, they shake. There is more of a thump to them, and then the sound is that. So in theory, I've always said that crotch rockets, they're just smoother. It's like riding on a cloud. It's like glass. But when you put an inline 4-cylinder in a touring long distance setting, those RPMs, the motor itself starts to not feel so smooth. Because, like us, for example, when we were going down the interstate between 70 and 85 miles per hour, I had 7,000 to 8,000 RPMs is what I was holding this thing at in top gear. So that's kind of more RPMs than I normally, would ever cruise at in town. Like, sure, I'll punch it from a stoplight or get on it a few times, your RPMs go up, but my normal cruising RPM in town is probably closer to 5,000 RPMs. And the vibrations, the buzziness that you get at 5,000 RPMs is significantly less than that 8,000. But once you have these bikes at highway speed, suddenly what you did think and what you did describe as just so smooth and just like you're on a cloud, like it was glass. Well, after a few hours, it starts to feel like you are riding a honeybee, like you are on the back of a wasp. Which you didn't notice before suddenly becomes all you can think about, and it's all you feel. Whereas a V-twin motorcycle, say some bigger V-twin cycle that's just at 2,000 RPMs running down the highway. Those bikes, what you think, it would be like shaky and much more uncomfortable. The V-twins more just have a pulse of a feel to them, whereas the Rockets, it's just a brutal, faster feeling that you get through the bars, through the levers, through the foot pegs. So where I most felt that, you don't ever feel the buzziness of these inline 4s in any padded sort of area on the bike. So like my seat, my butt, I did not feel those high-speed vibrations. But since we tried to keep this bike in just its stock form, having the stock grips, I definitely got that buzziness there. there. Now the foot pegs on your crotch rockets, most all of them are just going to be a metal peg with no rubber on them. And while a minimalistic peg like that is just fine on the racetrack around town, well, at highway speeds, when you bring a bike like this to a road trip setting, you will get those same vibrations in your feet. So your legs being attached to your feet, you kind of get those up through your whole legs, and that your legs are wrapped around this gas tank in the frame. Obviously, those are rigid things, and those vibrations are going through those as well. So pretty much from your crotch area to your toes, you are getting that buzziness that is just gonna fatigue your muscles. It's gonna break you down. So your areas that are saved from the buzziness are the butt and the back. Those are just hurting because you're just riding. So, okay, let's talk about that. The crotch rockets with you like leaning forward on them, you know, for all the guys out there, yeah, not the most comfortable thing. By the end of that day, you're not really gonna be able to feel what's down there. If you still have anything down there, you'll have to check to know if it is. But yeah, your crotch, your back, and then your head, your neck and head are pretty much the only places on your body that are going to be free from those vibrations. But everything else, all your limbs that are holding you on this missile as it jets down the road, yeah, they're going to be feeling it. But at the end of the day, I did do this. I did get it done. We did the damn deed. So is it possible? Yes. Is all of it going to be enjoyable? Certainly not. So after experiencing what we did, knowing that, I think there's things that you could change, things that you could do that would make this a lot more feasible. Because what is enjoyable is when you get to those scenic places, you get to those cool roads, it is very, very fun to have a crotch rocket out there, to have a sport bike and be able to experience all of that on. And of course, you don't really get the street cred if you trailer your crotch rocket out there to do your riding, you know, all the guys on their cruisers, on their Harleys, on their baggers. You're not gonna be a real biker because you trailered out. So there is some ways that I have thought of, and there's things that I know I could do to make that journey out, to make the distance part of your trip a lot more doable, that you won't just feel like you've been beat up afterwards. So the biggest thing, I think, is to eliminate those vibrations. First off, in the grips, that's definitely the first one that you'll notice. So there's a couple different ways that you could do this. The first one being, you know, I've seen plenty of foam covers that you slip over the factory grip. Even you don't even have to replace the grip, but you would just slip it over. And just having more layers there, you know, more between you and that steel bar just vibrating, that's really gonna help a ton. I mean, that is huge. Or just to swap out your grips with a touring type grip, you know, maybe a gel grip. Continuing on the buzziness, the foot pegs. If you switch out your foot pegs, or if there's any, I don't even know if this exists, maybe I should invent it myself, an insert or something that you could put on or clamp on to sport bike foot pegs that would reduce those vibrations. Well, and let's continue up the leg with that theory. I do think that some tank pads on your bike, you know, maybe you guys have seen those where they just stick on the side of your tank. They have some texture on them. They're usually like a rubberized material, but even that, just a thin layer, those rubber tank pads, that would really help to cut down on the vibrations that the insides of your thighs and your knees. My knees always broke down before my thighs did. So if my knees could pinch some rubber tank pads as opposed to just the metal tank and frame, that would be huge there. Now, as far as the windscreen goes, because on these sport bikes, you know, you don't have much for wind protection. Sure, you could tuck all the way down, you could have your chin resting on that gas tank, but being in that position for an extended amount of time is not going to be sustainable. So would a taller windscreen on a sport bike help? So I'm going to say no. And I'm actually going to say I do think that a taller taller windscreen would have worked against me. Let me explain. So with the height of our windscreen just being the factory height, when I am riding the motorcycle, that windscreen coming up to about there, the wind comes up that and it hits me about right here. So about middle of my torso or so. Now, if I had a taller windscreen, and I've definitely ridden bikes, well, I had bikes that I first bought them and they had like a bigger double bubble or of course a windscreen on them. So, you know, a windscreen that's 2-3 inches taller than a factory one would be. But with those, even a windscreen that's 3 inches taller than the factory windscreen on a sport bike, it still is not tall enough to bring that wind over your head. What it does do is make it so you don't have to tuck down as far to get that wind going over your helmet, but as you're just in your regular riding position, they aren't tall enough. I mean, suddenly the wind is hitting you right in your neck, right in the bottom of the chin, as opposed to the middle of your torso. Now, what I found in my highway cruising as I'm ripping down the road at 75, 80, I found that I could position myself, you know, I'd find the sweet spot, whether I'd have to slide forward and have my back a little bit more upright, or if I'd slide down and have my butt further back, my back angled at a more aggressive angle. The higher speed you are, the further back you want your butt to have your back at a more aggressive angle to make this work, but you essentially use that wind. Your body functions as a sail, and you can use that to take some of the weight off of your arms, off of your hands, and then you don't have to grip the bike as much with your legs. Your core isn't working as hard either. So the shorter windscreen actually helped fatigue me less. It wasn't as hard on me. And I really perfected that on my trip home. I was still kind of figuring everything out because this is the first long distance ride I've ever done on, you know, what would sit and feel like a factory rocket. But by the time I was doing my trip home, that final 500 plus miles, I had really perfected this. And I think that was key in helping me get home, because at this time I was already pretty beat up from doing about 1,000 miles in the previous 2 days. So managing my body there and using my speed and the wind, that saved me. And if I had had a taller windscreen, what one would think would be a positive or a perk or would help them, no. Managing the lower windscreen and using that wind and that air, it's like a secret weapon. Now, beyond that, what could really help you is just having a good or a better system for cargo than I used. If you can just keep your luggage and your cargo off of yourself and not have to worry about that, I would have been significantly more comfortable, a lot less beat up at the end of every day if I didn't have to wear that. I mean, that really stressed out my shoulders and my back. I mean, the top of my back and my shoulders still hurt very much. That would be huge. I mean, game changer. So I guess those are the things that you could change. You know, all of those things, I'd be interested to take another trip and put all of those things that I just mentioned, those changes that you could do, into effect and see how I felt from a trip like that. And I just, not having done it yet, I can already tell you that I would feel way better. Now, would it be to the level if I made those changes that I could say that I wasn't uncomfortable at all? I don't know. I haven't done it yet. But I think with those changes in place, I think suddenly that would get a sport bike, a Crotch Rocket, to the point that maybe you could honestly say, this is my touring bike. This is what I do trips and long distance on, and it's not that bad. It's not uncomfortable. And keep in mind, we're talking about the same core bike, still in that aggressive, sporty riding position. Now, not that you're going to be able to ride for 10 hours nonstop without taking a break, but tweaking those things, I don't know. I think you might be all right in that the only breaks you'd need would be just to fuel up, just the couple minutes you take to put more petrol in the tank. So summing it all up, is touring and long distance possible, plausible? Is it an option? on a Crotch Rocket, on a sport bike? Well, yes is the answer. Even in stock form with none of the fancy amenities or changes to it for anything, just as it would roll out of the dealership, well, yes, I did it. And so that was 3 days, 1,500 miles. You know, say you had a 2,000, 2,500, 3,000 mile trip that you were thinking about on a sport bike. Could I double that trip in 6 days? Could I do 3,000 miles on this? Even if my life depended on it, I don't know. The 3 days, I could do 3, brutal days of a lot of riding. The second one not being so bad because the lower speeds, more to see, not quite as beat up and buffered from the wind. Well, and everybody's gonna be different, and I don't know what I am compared to everybody. Am I some better biker? Do I have the iron butt? Or am I more weak, more of a pussy than the average Joe on a sport bike? I don't know, probably just in the middle. I certainly won't say that I'm some road warrior and just love putting in the miles and enduring all the pain. Well, so I guess that's gonna be all my thoughts, all my reflections, revelations, recollections, what I would change, what I would do different. I loved that experience and I wouldn't change it for the world. Well, so I suppose. Comment with any questions that you guys may have. Otherwise, like the video if this helped you out, subscribe if you want to see more, and until next time.